Hey guys, Omni here. We are back for episode 8 of the Haunting of Bly Manor. Peter and Rebecca's plan seems to have been revealed to us, and surprisingly, or not surprisingly, she's not going along with it, trying to help Danny escape this situation, all before the mysterious figure who keeps looming the halls of Bly, leaving those muddy tracks throughout the hallways from the outside every evening, shows herself as Danny's trying to get Flora out of there into safety, as it's too late for Miles at this point. And lo and behold, before anything can happen, this thing just straight up chokeholds Danny and starts dragging her towards the lake. So I expect that with this episode, the penultimate of the season, and we have not explained this thing at all, I have to imagine we'll probably be spending some time in this episode getting the backstory finally of what has been going on at Bly and what this entity and who this entity is. Was it Viola, like I had seen back at the church before with the name that it focused on, or is it someone altogether? Was that a mislead? I don't know. We'll find out. But guys, that said, if you're part of the 62% of people that are watching the channel, you're not yet subscribed, or if you're tuning in for the first time, I really hope if you enjoy this reaction, you decide to hit that button and maybe even leave a like. I'd really appreciate it. It helps me out in the long run. If you want to see the full-length unedited reaction to this episode or any of the previous ones, you can check those out over on Patreon, or if you become a member of the channel, it gets you access as well. Along with those, you get the same thing for all the other shows we cover here on the channel, as well as a bunch of exclusive movie reactions that are over there for you guys. Where at the start of the month, you get to put forth your suggestions and then vote on what movies we add to that list each month. You also get monthly Q&As, behind-the-scenes footage as often as I can put it on there. I try to make it worth your while to help you guys out, since you are going out of your way to support the channel. But of course, I know how we can do that, and a simple way you can help us out is just by liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing these videos, because it helps us greatly with that YouTube algorithm. That all sent down the way, guys. Let's hop into episode 8. Here we go. Oh, I knew she was in the cast list, but I was like, when is she going to show up in this show?
Gentleman, the elder Viola. The younger Perdita, in memory of a little girl born between them, who had lived but a few weeks. With their father in the ground, they faced a dire necessity for marriage.
Is the one that didn't make it, is that the one that's been playing in the dollhouse? Though that age doesn't really line up, but I don't know. I have to assume Viola's the one that's been dragging people to the lake.
Had nothing. Bly must stay in the family, and the sisters must stay in control. He was an honest, resolute, intelligent young man. Rich in pounds sterling, in his health and comfortable hopes. And just as Perdita began to feel the stirrings of a true interest in the young man, he may marry her, or marry her sister, but there should be no mistake in the true authority of Bly Manor.
Power play.
Things would be done.
I, Viola, take thee, Arthur, to be my lawfully wedded husband, till death us depart.
And obey, to cherish and obey.
Seized by a restlessness new to her heart, she would walk.
Walk the halls.
Viola found that under its purpose, her marriage may have some amount of love to it after all.
I have no honeyed words to speak. It is fierce out there.
Perdita, though, she definitely did seem like legitimately interested, and I just sense and detect a little bit of minor disdain behind this happiness that she wasn't the one picked. But
it is you. It is me. It is us.
oh, that's the words.
Isabel was born. But
Wait, maybe
nothing holds, and all things change given time. Change does not often announce itself.
wait, no, hold up.
By the time
We had a brother and a brother
has already set its teeth.
have an affair with one's wife. Now, are we going to have the reverse with these two sisters and the husband?
It is not the plague.
Oh, thank God.
But it is not good news. She has the lung.
How he didn't get this? Well, he probably will. How he doesn't have it currently is beyond me. Man. To think how people were administered to back in the day, because we didn't really know much about how the body or sickness or illness worked. Tried all these painful things to try to burn out the body.
And I will come again.
Okay, so
And I will...
I'm assuming it's going to be this child that becomes the one running around.
I go and prepare a place for you.
No,
Yeah, nah.
I do not go.
She will stay.
Tell your God that I do not go.
Viola has left her bed. Yeah. Oh my God. You know, that dress that she's wearing right now looks quite familiar. She's the one in the attic, I think, that Flora shushed. Wandering the halls. But when does the lake come into play? Probably soon. Probably soon. I'll love how that portrait is just illuminated.
Just before the 6th year of Viola's living death,
God
she sold
damn,
her room
6
all the
years.
jewels and clothes she had accumulated in her days before the sickness.
Do you promise me, Arthur?
Promise you what?
Promise me that you will keep them for her, that you will keep the key, and you will never give it to anyone except our child.
The money failing as time went on, Arthur was required more and more to business, further and further across the oceans to places exotic and rich.
Sounds kind of familiar as to where the family was when we came into... Well, not when we came in. That had already well passed. But what the Flora and Miles' father was up to.
The word began in her chest as the sickness did for Viola. The word was mercy. And the word was a lie. The word was not mercy, she realized in the end. No, the word had always been enough.
My guard.
Concerning the widower, now the Lord of Bly Manor in all respects, very soon came to be predicted that he would marry again. They were married, as was becoming with...
Oh man, this is what pisses that soul off, isn't it? Because isn't her name like right there?
Waggishly
Yup. And only 35 when she passed. 1 year older than me.
During the first 3 years of their marriage, the new Mrs. Lloyd failed to become a mother in her own right, and her adopted daughter refused at every turn to see her as a mother.
It's funny how history repeats itself in this house. What is with that painting? Yeah, that's not what that looked like when it was out of focus.
She had long since ascertained that her sister's immense wardrobe had been sequestered for the benefit of her daughter on the 6th anniversary of Viola's death. Perdita had reached her limit.
If she could have foreseen how dire things would become, how dire you have made things.
Me?
Yes. More than all my sister wanted Bly to flourish. She would have done anything, everything in her power to save the manor, and you know that.
We mustn't dispose of an oath to Viola. But what right had Viola to dispose of our future?
What right had she to bind you to meanness and cruelty?
No more of this.
Oh, great. So far, the lake has still not come into play whatsoever. Dude, a house like this would be so fucking creepy. Ghosts or not. Attics always creep me out, man. Well, this attic's gonna become your resting place. I thought I saw something shifting around in the shadows. Oh my god! Jesus. Oh my lord. The hell? All of her silks and the rose petals and all of that is with her, along with the veil. Is she linked to this promise? Like, yeah, it's all of the stuff she didn't want to be buried with or whatever. Or linked to, tied to, after her passing. It's all the things she wanted to leave for her daughter. Why is it in her after?
She would sleep.
She would wake.
She would wake.
She would walk. Or, well, try, I guess. And well, like what Peter said, it takes time to learn how to, like, navigate this existence.
And time went by. How much time? It was impossible to reason.
Was she let out once the case was unlocked? Was she able to get out of that door once the case was unlocked?
She admitted she was dead. She admitted her husband had moved on. She admitted her daughter was growing without her. One day the Locks would see their keys, and one day Isabel would open her mother's trunk.
Yeah, she literally bound herself to this promise. This promise and this future for her daughter. And it was your old sister. My. I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of goofy looking. But now she is free. And now, after 10,000 years, I'm free. It's time to conquer Bly.
The business was empty. The manor was lost. If not in law, in spirit. They would move away from here, at last. At least, she'd be with them both. Her husband, her daughter. No matter if they couldn't see her. They were leaving Bly.
So who was the kid that Flora has been interacting with?
But Arthur,
She's
a
way
very
too old to be
superstitious
that
man.
one. Is it the one that barely lived? Like their sister, Perdita and Viola's? Their middle sister?
His daughter, nor anyone else.
Oh, but she can't go with them. Oh, no. Okay, never mind. What the shit?
Be depths, while her daughter would grow to womanhood.
What? Why?
This absolute
Why?
abandonment.
Why? Why? There's so much money in there.
Viola would not go. She would wake.
I mean, I guess because the chest has been unlocked at least once, she can leave the chest, I guess. Because that's one of my concerns here is, like, you know, she was locked up in there, but she's able to, like, come to and go.
She did not even realize that a decade had passed. not even realize after an outbreak of plague in the village that the empty manor had become a quarantine for the coughing death. And a strange phenomenon occurred. Her gravity, it seemed, that kept her in purgatory. It would hold others too. She would sleep, and as happens when one dreams, she would forget.
This is a repeating theme from Hill House too. The idea of dreaming, not being able to know what's the dream and what's the reality or whatever, pulling them into this dream, waking them up, so to speak.
All things fade. All things. Flesh, stone, even stars themselves. Time takes all things. As her memories left her, so too.
Gosh, so
her
creepy.
face. That one night she found a child in her
Oh.
daughter's old bed.
Okay,
And could
here
not
they are.
remember who she had been hoping to see, hoping to find a child, and here was a child.
A child. Oh God.
Must be the child whom she'd sought. Those souls held in her orbit. Those
Aww.
unfortunates trapped in the gravity well she had made of Bly Manor. A
Damn.
fate that befell anyone unfortunate enough to step into her habitual path.
Stop. Stop!
Gosh, this is wild.
No hope for anyone with the sad misfortune to die on the grounds of Bly. No hope for the victims of Bly, be they victims of fate or vice.
Damn, man. All right, we're right
And
back
no
where we
hope
started
of
the
seeking
episode. Come on, please. We won't get a resolution in this episode, though.
And who had finally stepped into the path of her own fate.
God damn it, man. Fuck. Dude, that was a wild episode. I still think that there should have been more of a setup to this other than just the name and the tile on the stone up to here, because it does kind of feel like, I mean, we've seen the entity multiple times throughout the season so far, but there's been no allusions to it outside of, like I said, that minor little blink and you miss it, zoom into that random name in the church to now. And I feel like this would have, I really like this episode, but I really would have liked to have had a little, like, allusions to it. The history of Bly and all that, maybe it's set up or mentioned throughout the thing to build up to this a little bit better. Because it does feel like, oh, and then all this stuff, and then, oh yeah, and this story. But I really liked it. This might be one of my favorite episodes of the season, though. Yeah, I mean, it's tragic, man. I feel for everybody. I don't feel like anybody was really in the wrong at all in any of these situations, except for maybe Viola, and the point where she was like literally putting her child and husband and sister in danger. But the struggle of her sickness, obviously, and that longing, that love, that need, that isolation is going to overpower your senses, your like logical parts of your brain. Like, you're not going to be rational. You want to feel, you want to touch, you want to be with things, people, and whatever that you love, regardless. And sometimes that'll override that like safety measure. And you know, I don't blame Perdita at all for doing any of what she did or how things kind of played out. I definitely understand everybody's sensibilities in this point. And I understand Viola's kind of like betrayal in that moment as well, especially considering that her sister killed her. And oddly enough, I understand why Perdita did what she did. It was kind of for them all. I mean, her hanging on like this, her pushing on wasn't really helping anybody. It was more of a, I mean, it's still murder. Like that's it to the end of the day. I'm just saying that I understand why Perdita did it. It was a mercy killing, as well as something that would help them finally break free of this shackle that Viola has become on everybody at Bly. And that loops back in thematically with Owen's story and his mother. Though he waited for her, he lasted until she broke. This was Perdita, though, this would be the equivalent of Owen if he had been the reason his mom died. But it parallels that story. The sisters' relationships and the husband parallels what happened with the parents of the uncle and the father of Miles and Flora, where there's a lot of parallels from all the different stories that we've been seeing throughout this, and the links and how they connect to the history of this house and the pull of this house. Lots of little things here and there connecting from setups throughout the season up to this point. And it all just ended up being everything that's happened that we saw kicked into motion with Peter and Rebecca and all that was just like a bad catch of luck of running into Viola as she's on one of her prowls. And otherwise, they could have probably made off and been living the life somewhere in America like they had planned. But nope, Peter went off the wrong time of day, right into into Viola's room in the Forbidden Wing to get some of those leftover jewels, just like her sister did, going out there to get into these riches to try to help their situation. Again, another parallel. Perdita kind of like echoes, like in similar ways, the uncle and Peter in two different paths. They kind of converge in her story as well. She kind of is a representation of both of what they've kind of been going through. And again, it wasn't like Perdita's thing was anything out of selfishness. I don't feel like it was. And let alone, I think she made a very good point about the stuff in the trunk. It's just Viola wouldn't know. I mean, Viola wouldn't know the situation. She wouldn't know why she would come and take this stuff. She just knows that was the person that killed her, and now they were opening the door and not the daughter she had promised to leave all this to. She was the one coming in here. So, of course, from her perspective, she's thinking, this is all being taken from me. She's just doing this again. She was already feeling jealous about that whole situation when she walked in on her ballroom dancing with her husband while she was sick in bed. Which I also kind of like understand a little bit, because again, like where we saw this whole relationship kind of kick off was Perdita was charming the hell out of what's his face? I don't even remember the cousin's name. And again, it's the times, so this is not abnormal for the time, but yeah, their whole cousin thing. They were bonding. They had more in common than anything. Very similar to, again, the present day, the uncle and the father, their whole dynamic and how that all played off with the wife. Similar thing here. But then here comes Viola and her, like they said, her pageantry, because it was all show. It was a sign of power, of dominance, of asserting herself. It's like, listen, you're in here. You might be the dude. You might be marrying one of us. You might become the lord of the manor. But remember, I'm in control. And then he was just like, pushed Perdita out of the way and then went after her. So there's this internal resentment between the sisters that had happened all because of the situation on a lot of different levels. And then it's just like they said, and set up the gravity of the situation and how that literal gravity is now just sucking everybody's souls into it. I don't know. It was a really beautifully accentuated story. I just wish we would have had this maybe parsed out or alluded to a little bit earlier, because coming in clutch in the second to last episode just feels like it's a little, I don't know. I feel like it's a lot to learn about this entire situation at the tail end of the story. That's my only gripe I have with this episode, really, at least. But yeah, man. Danny. Hope she's all right. Given the whole situation, like the losing the house, I don't understand at that point, why did they throw away the trunk? Did he just want to expunge any link to these sisters at this point and just took his daughter away from it all? They lost the house. You know, would it have, I mean, was he that serious about the promise? I mean, apparently no, not, because he didn't give any of it to the daughter. You know, and they just chucked it into the lake. So there's just like this resentment that came about for both of them, but then a complete disregard for the daughter, unless he just didn't want to curse her with any of this, which who knows? That could have like completely exorcised and put her to rest. You know, if the promise was fulfilled. Plus, if not, you know, they could have sold all that stuff and been fine and would have carried on the legacy that she wanted. And then that comes back to Perdita, like going into the chest to begin with. She wasn't going into the chest because she wanted her shit. She was going into the chest because they were about to lose their home and her daughter was about to have nothing. So again, I think had there been the opportunity to have a conversation, maybe this would have been fine. But everything played off the way it did, and yeah, man, understandably so, it all went to complete shit. And I love how it's just like we saw the escalation of the population of this house kind of growing. Yeah, I like this episode though. We got one more to go, man. I think I'm probably going to just watch this one tonight, even though you guys will probably see it a little bit later. You know, keeping it on schedule. But yeah, man, I just want to go ahead and get this out of the way. I really want to see how this concludes, and I want to know if Danny's going to be okay. Guys, what do you think of this episode? Do you feel the same way as I do about the story, about the pacing, about this being placed at the tail end like this? If not, share your thoughts. I'd love to know how you felt about this whole revelation when you watched it. So sound off the comments. Let me know your thoughts down below. We'll carry on the conversation after the video. Feel free to join us in our Discord. We could talk about it there as well. Links to that on all my socials in the description box. Follow me on each and every one of those. I'd really appreciate it. But if you want to check out the full-length reaction, remember it's on Patreon, or if you become a member of the channel, it gets you access as well. And speaking of, before we go, I want to shout out our channel legends, Mandy Sherritt, Ryan Karen, Philly Vane, Yori Korskov, Margaret Grace, Mary Bradley, Nate Prouty, and Melita. Thank you guys, as always, for your continued support. That's another episode down. We got one to go, and I'll see you all in the finale. Take care, everybody.